segment here. It is the question. Guys, when we saw Sam Darnold play last time on Sunday Night Football versus the Detroit Lions, he was 18 for 41 for 166 yards on Sunday. Sam Darnold has been a great story all season long. But the question is that I'm going to ask you guys, Mark, I'm going to start with you first. Was that game versus the Detroit Lions, was that a bad game or a bad sign for Sam Darnold moving forward? Has the clock finally struck midnight?
All right, you guys call me the king of waffling, so I'm going to waffle again. So this is, I think it's a little bit of both. I think they schemed him up really well, but I think also he was like really juiced up. Like he had never played in that high caliber of a game before. And I think, he was just like super pumped up. And that's why there was some throws that could have been made. They could have had touchdowns that it totally could have changed the outcome of that game. But because they were bad throws, that's what threw off the whole thing. So I think that for Vikings Nation, I hope it was just a bad game. But if he plays another game in the playoffs, if I was the owner, I don't know if I'd want to pay him.
Yeah, you know what? Let me dive into this just a little bit, right? Let me talk about Sam Darnold a little bit. Sam Darnold has been playing out of his mind, guys. Let's just be honest. He has been playing out of his mind all season long. He is 5th in the NFL in passing, 4,319 yards, 5th in the NFL in touchdown passes, 35 touchdowns, and he has 12 interceptions. And his QBR is 60.6, which is 14th in the NFL. To add on top of all those great stats, these are all career numbers for Sam Darnold, right? This is his first time in his NFL career that he has played a full 17-game season. The most games before this, Mark and Hoffy, was 13 games his rookie and his sophomore season. He has career numbers of 66% completion percentage so far this season, and before that, it was below 60. So obviously, he's a Cinderella story. He's playing out of his mind, right? He's also taken a lot of sacks, guys. I believe he has 45 sacks so far this season, right? And I want to take it one step further. I think the blueprint has even been laid out of how to beat the Minnesota Vikings. This is how you beat the Minnesota Vikings. You pressure Sam Darnold, play an inside-outside coverage on Jordan Addison and JJ. Bada bing, bada boom, they lose. That's what the Lions did to him in the first game back in week 7. And that's what the Rams did to him too, as well. And Hoffy, you know this best, right? The NFL is a week-to-week league. Everything changes from week to week, meaning just last week, before this Detroit Lions game, everybody was saying, pay Sam Darnold, or pay Sam, $50+ million. Say, pay him. And I've been saying all along, pump those damn brakes, slow it down, baby. But this is a bad sign moving forward. The Rams defense can replicate, Mark, what the Detroit Lions did on Sunday. They have been playing a lot better since the bye week, meaning the LA Rams, on both sides of the ball. And they're the second most dangerous team in the playoffs, hands down. Guys, this is a bad sign for the Minnesota Vikings moving forward. Now, I did say that they were a more dangerous 5th seed because they have a chance to beat the Rams, right? I didn't think they had a better chance of being a number 1 seed and beating the Detroit Lions in the second round. But Hoffy, is this a bad game or a bad sign for Sam Darnold?
I'm not sure if I'm going to pull a waffle here. I'm not sure if it's exactly a bad game or a bad sign, but he definitely picked the wrong game to have a bad game. 14-3 record is nothing to scoff at. 2 of those 3 losses were to the Detroit Lions. And this past week, Detroit Lions, they blitzed him 55% of his dropbacks and had pressure on him 49% of the time. Wow. He's completed at 67% completion percentage this season and dropped to 43 this week. But that being said, the third and other loss that he has, or the second team that he's lost to, was to the LA Rams, and it was in LA. It was the week that Cooper Kupp came back and the Rams finally got healthy, and they beat them by 10. So this is not I would not feel confident if I was a Minnesota Viking fan or this Minnesota Vikings team having to go into SoFi Stadium where you've already gotten beat by a team pretty, convincingly. I think it was like 30-20 or something like that. So, and they've now, just like you said, the blueprint's been laid out. Detroit's blitzed them heavily both times. And I think that the Rams have they're going to be able to protect Stafford. Stafford is a good quarterback. He can still move. So yes, Brian Flores has been great, and he's gonna, create a great scheme to go after these Rams. But Matthew Stafford's seen it all. Cooper Kupp's game. Puka's been playing out of his mind. So look out.
So jumping into the comments here, Mark. Laura says, if Sam Darnold has made all those bad throws on Sunday, why were all those passes caught all season long with no issues? And Laura, I'm going to explain this for you in terms that we all can kind of understand. Like I kind of want to sound like I'm talking down or at you, but there is such thing as called adrenaline, right? When you get into when you get into a big game, when you can normally only throw 60 yards, all of a sudden you can throw 65 yards, right? Look at that touchdown, or sorry, the should have been touchdown pass. JJ was wide open. Sam Darnold threw it way too high because his adrenaline was pumping so much that he didn't understand how strong his arm actually actually was. And to say that he has never been in that type of game before might be a reach, right? He did play at USC, right? Which, they had some big games there. I'm sure he had some big games in like high school. But when you're in
Not
the
like
NFL,
this, man.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, but when you are in the NFL, the adrenaline's pumping that much more, right? You have that much more power, much more strength, much more like sound quarterback mindset. So that is a reason why that a lot of those passes were overthrown, right? A lot of those passes were thrown short. Like a lot of the adrenaline is a real thing. Mark, I don't want to take your thunder, but do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, man. He was juiced up. He had adrenaline. Like, I don't think he played in any of that kind of caliber game in college. Like this also means like it's a big thing for his career, dude. Like, he plays well, like he's gonna get paid. He didn't play well, so now they're questioning things. So it's like now it's like another must win for him in the playoffs. Like this is all based on his performance, and if he doesn't do well, that depends on his contract for next year. So yeah, he's also probably nervous.
Yeah,
I think we're looking at this situation much like a lot of people look at the 49ers situation, with Brock Purdy.
Right, I would agree.
Is it a system quarterback? And, is it just because Kevin O'Connell is in his ear whispering and, pumping him up and telling him how great he is and, hey, step out of the huddle. You're amazing. You're doing great things. And, so you got Daniel Jones. He, the Giants let him go. You could get him pretty cheap. I don't think that there's much drop off between the two of them. Daniel Jones had a great first year under Brian Daboll, so maybe you take a flyer with him. There's going to be plenty of quarterbacks on the market, free agents that could potentially be something you look at. And then you have JJ McCarthy, who you spent pretty good capital to get. So maybe you pull a Brett Favre here, you take a 1-year flyer on Aaron Rodgers. We'll get into that later, but I don't know why you would pay Sam Darnold the big bucks after this game.
Yeah, and you are exactly right. And then Laura also brings up this point, says, I dread Monday night this coming week. Laura, I would not be dreading Monday night because of the last week's game. Let's just be honest. Last week's game was a championship game. So therefore, he knows, like Sam Darnold knows how to control his emotions, maybe just a little bit more, or know what to expect. Hoffy, you have been on teams where you have made it to the championship and you guys just flat out shit the bed because it's your first time being in the championship, right? And then the following time you are in the championship yet again. You have been there. You have done that. You know what to expect. So being there the second time, Hoffy, after losing the first championship and then winning the second championship, does it make it a little bit easier, Hoffy?
I wouldn't know. I've won every big game I ever played in.
See, now I know you're false. Now I know you're fab.
No, I've definitely lost, but I've never lost in the actual championship. Anytime I've gotten to a championship, I've been lucky enough to win it, honestly. But yeah, I do think that coming off this loss, it's left a bad taste in their mouth. I'm sure they were ready to get back to work the very next day for practice. And, they're trying to get this taste out of their mouth. What better way to come in and right the wrong than beat a team that's already beat you once this year? And that being said, this Rams team beat them. This Rams team might be, hey, we've already beat these guys. They're coming to our house. We got this. So they might, lay back a little bit and they might lay an egg and the Vikings come out and, ball out. But I think that the Vikings have to start fast. Maybe I'm wrong here. I thought that the Vikings really hurt themselves by going for it on, I think it was like the first fourth down and they didn't get it. They didn't take the points. I think at that point, take the points, give yourself the lead, play ahead kind of thing. But I think that they got to start fast and get on the scoreboard early and take the life out of the stadium early.
I hate to agree with Hoff, but I kind of agree with him. I think that they've won a lot of games this year because they started out really hot. And I think maybe that's part of the key of beating them. And if you get up on them, they're not a type of team that's going to be able to come back. Sam Darnold's not that quarterback. So maybe that's part of the key of beating them.
Yeah, and just to add to you guys' points, the one thing that I've said the biggest flaw about the Minnesota Vikings all season long was their inability to put teams away. So when they're up in the fourth quarter, 10, 12, 13 points, they let teams like the Green Bay Packers hang around. And teams like the Chicago Bears hang around, right? They allow them to make that a close one-score game. And I did say it is going to come back and haunt them in times to come. But Laura, I understand why you are dreading Monday night's game, but the Vikings are favored. They are on the road, and they are one of the hottest teams in the NFL. But so are the LA Rams. So I definitely.
But we've also said that it's hard to beat a team twice. Rams are going to have to beat them twice. That's really hard to do that. So
right.
The Vikings have that in their favor.
So let's talk about that a little bit, Mark, because when the Rams beat the Minnesota the Vikings, Hoffy said it. Cooper Kupp, first game back, right? Puka, I think that was his first game back after being injured as well. The Rams are a 157.2% team different from what they were back in week 7 or 8, right? They're a 100% different team. They are 9-2 since that bye week that they had back in week 7, right? They are one of the best teams in the NFL. So they are. It is like we cannot take any stock in. Like, yes, you can take stock into that early season game, but it is not going to influence the playoff game, I don't think.
But we also a couple weeks back talked about, does this Vikings team need to lose a game? Going into the playoffs with 9+ game win streak. It's tough to win that many games in a row. So maybe this is that knocks them down a pole on the totem pole kind of thing. And, gets them that hunger back. That hey, get that juice flowing again. So I would be jazzed up for a playoff game if I was the Vikings. Not so much a Denver Broncos fan, but Vikings, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it like losing a game like that definitely refocuses you, right? So you have time to get it up here. So Laura wants to take it one step further. So are you guys saying, or Buck, are you saying that Sam Darnold's season all season long was a fluke? He has had a outlier of a season, right? Now is that outlier of the season going to become the mean, going to become the average, going to become what we expect of Sam Darnold? To be determined. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I think this game is a big test for him. So I think he plays well. They might keep him. They might play him longer. Who knows? And also if he plays well, other teams might want to sign him if they don't have that in the cards. So he's playing for his career. So this next game is super important.
Javi?
Yeah, I think this next game is super important. I don't know that, if you're going at the end of this season and it's coming down to you going against another team and the price tag is just going up and up, that's not a battle I want to get into with Sam Darnold only having, one good year under his belt. I get it that he came from the Jets. That team's been a laughing stock. But when you have someone like J.J. McCarthy already in your building, there's some other – Jameis Winston's going to be a free agent. There's a couple other people that'll be out there. But I don't know that I'm paying this guy, Patrick Mahomes money, Josh Allen money, Lamar Jackson, which I think another team like the Raiders could come in and offer him that kind of money. And I'm not paying him that kind of money, especially after – this last game. I mean, unless he goes on a run in the playoffs and leads you to the promised land, and then even has a good game in the Super Bowl. But if he lays another egg in the Super Bowl, that should be a telltale sign.
Yeah, and just to add to your point there, guys, that history does always repeat itself. Brett Favre did spend 2 years in New York before going to Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers has spent 2 years in New York before going to. And WBN says, I would franchise tag Sam Darnold. I wouldn't sign him to a long-term contract. Gil still got to see more of him unless he gets to the NFC Championship game. And Ant,
That's basically a 1 year, $40 million deal.
yeah, and I would say even if he makes it to the NFC Championship game or wins a playoff game or makes it to the Super Bowl, you still franchise tag him, right? Because, yes, he is only, 28, 27 years old. This is still an outlier of a season. You don't know what to expect from him.
Also, JJ's coming off the Achilles, or ACL, so he's not going to be back right away. Yeah. So they're going to need somebody.
Well,
he Buck, have you ever heard of a guy named Matt Castle? He had one really good season.
Richard Beck says KOC needs to find KOC needs to find a way to keep Sammy D calm. They showed a close-up of his face during a play in his eyes where they were moving everywhere. He looked so overwhelmed. Yes, the Lions defense definitely overwhelmed Sam Darnold all game long. There's no question about that. Josh said the Vikings couldn't execute that game. However, I do think they will beat the Rams 27-24 this weekend. They are favored, so that is not a reach as well, or a reach at all. Casey Morgan says the next season is the only way to tell if Sam Darnold this season is a fluke or not. Correct.
Truth.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also depends if he goes somewhere else, right? Just like I believe Mark was saying, right? Is it the system or is it actually the player, right? And everything right now.
I think Kevin O'Connell's legit, man. So I think he's a big key part of that. McVay did the same thing with Goff his first year by talking to him all the way up until the thing. Yep. It helps these guys. And what if Darnold goes somewhere else? He's not going to have that.
Yeah, and it's also the Kirk Cousins effect, right? Kirk Cousins had a great season. Now look where he's at. He's getting cut. Richard says Sammy D is playing Monday night for a $45-50 million contract. If he lays an egg, he might get 25 to 30. If that kind of pressure can change the way you play. But
yep.
Big time players make big time plays, right? And Casey says, I hear the Raiders need a quarterback. Not wrong.
Poor ass Raiders.
Hatrick Pahomey says, hello. What's up, man? What's up? Laura says, AR is not coming to Minnesota. Don't ever put that out there, ever. And Hoffy says,
sure I saw Woody Johnson's private jet was leaving the Meadowlands from Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, so there you go. Lay it down. And Casey says, we Chiefs fan don't talk about Matt Castle. Those are the lost years, Hoffy. Those are the lost years. How much wasn't that was a Herm Edwards, Matt Castle, and Dwayne Bowe. Man, it was so bad. It was
play to win the game.
Yeah, that was terrible. John says, yes, he plays in New England. Castle, how did he finish, Hoffy? Matt Castle had a great year when Tom Brady went down with the ACL. Then Kansas City Chiefs signed him
11-5.
And didn't make the playoffs.
Nope.
It was still better than what they got, right? And Laura says, sush it. No Aaron Rodgers. And Chill Guy, UT's back in the chat today. What's up, Chill Guy? He says, I wonder if the Falcons get the 16th overall pick yet again.
Didn't you say earlier history has a tendency of repeating itself, Buck?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure Laura was, paying attention.
And didn't Joe Milton III just have a pretty good game for the Patriots? So that means the Chiefs are going to sign him this.
Bazooka Joe screwed it up for you guys,
right.
And my prediction for the number 1 pick. Yeah. You can blame him.
Laura says, I miss Case Keenum, or however you spell his name. Case Keenum is still in the league. He's a backup in Houston, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, he's CJ Stroud.
Yeah. So
backup.